I'll tell you what, Trump has set the cat among the pigeons. They're trying at every turn to find fault with the Trump speech. I thought it was just magnificent. Finally, a leader with the strength to make some bold statements and put people on the back foot. And amazing. He talked, I'll come to a bit of that in a moment, 2.4 million new jobs, including 200,000 in manufacturing, unemployment, a 45-year low. Of course, his critics are questioning whether he's absolutely accurate in what he's asserting. The stock market gaining $8 trillion in value. Tax cuts for small and middle-class businesses. Business tax rates slashed from 35 to 21%. He vowed to end the war on clean energy. He said, we're now an exporter of energy to the world. He talked about the virtue of coal. He vowed to reduce the price of prescription drugs. He launched an attack on trade deals. He said the era of economic surrender is over. But have a listen to him here, just listing the Trump achievements. This must have made the critics ill.
Since the election, we have created 2.4 million new jobs. After years and years of wage stagnation, we are finally seeing rising wages. Unemployment claims have hit a 45-year low. The stock market has smashed one record after another, gaining $8 trillion and more in value in just this short period of time. And just as I promised the American people from this podium 11 months ago, we enacted the biggest tax cuts and reforms in American history.
I mean, and then, you see, this is the emotion bit. And then he revved them up and he talked about the new America. Listen to this.
This, in fact, is our new American moment. There has never been a better time to start living the American dream. So to every citizen watching at home tonight, no matter where you've been or where you've come from, this is your time. If you work hard, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in America, then you can dream anything. You can be anything. And together, we can achieve absolutely anything.
Fantastic. Just fantastic. Oh, dear, dear, dear. We don't have anything like that. I'll tell you what, though, you'd have to walk 1,000,000 miles to see anything like the looks on the faces of what one of my listeners called the obnoxious, sour, truculent and loathsome lot who constitute the Democratic Party in America. Did you see them watching the Trump address? They were there in front of him. As one of my listeners perceptibly wrote to me overnight and said, they didn't know which way to look. They couldn't or wouldn't clap, and they wouldn't stand. They had no idea what hit them. Their sullen attitude betrayed the fact that they still don't know or understand why they lost. As my listener said, channeling Gough Whitlam, like the French Bourbon kings, they've learnt nothing and forgotten nothing. But I'll tell you what, there's a couple of interesting points here for us. Well, there's 1,000,000 for us, but just one that everyone would understand. Trump and tariffs. Now, this is what Trump's talking about. He's whacked a tariff, he called it temporary, on imported solar panels. Imported solar panels. 30% tariff. What do? We say open slather. Reduce tariffs, import everything. We get hairs on our chest. We're the only country in the world that plays this so-called free trade game when Trump's talking fair trade. And so because we've lowered tariffs, manufacturing's collapsed, jobs have been lost and so on. Trump says a 30% tariff on imported solar panels. What's the Chinese reaction to all of this? What does the leading Chinese solar manufacturer say? Jinko Solar Holdings. They're going to do exactly what Trump said would happen. They have announced they'll construct an advanced solar manufacturing facility in the United States. Trump said his new tariffs, which still include import restrictions on stuff like washing machines, will lead to foreign companies shifting production to America. Jobs for America. Revenue for America. And his trade representative has said that the imposition of trade barriers against Japan in the 80s spurred Japanese car makers to come to America and build the cars. Mr. Trump is now saying that LG and Samsung will build major manufacturing plants, have announced this, for washing machines in America. And Mr. Trump said an outfit called Project Vault, billed as a leading international manufacturer of solar panels and modules, wants to open with $500 million its first manufacturing and assembly operation in America. In Australia, of course, politicians decide how business should be done. Trump was a businessman. Politicians wouldn't have a clue. Most of them have never, ever filled out a payroll tax slip. Well, today we're told that tax cuts for middle-income earners will be part of a speech the Prime Minister will make in Toowoomba today. A major speech in Toowoomba. We're told he'll say his government will again, when you talk about tax cuts, holy Nelly, that's critical to the whole deal, isn't it? When you look at what our tax rates are, which is just unbelievable. When you think that our highest tax rate is 47 cents in the dollar, and people can't live with that kind of tax imposition. Anyway, we'll see what happens. He says his government will again attempt to cut to 25% taxes for businesses with a turnover of more than 50 million. A coalition push for personal tax cuts, he said, will follow soon afterwards. Of course, he's going to have to give detail in all of this, and he's going to have to be able to say how it's going to be paid for. But nonetheless, for the worker out there who gets to $87,000 and suddenly says, well, after that, a third of everything I earn goes to the tax man. After $87,000. You're not rich on $87,000, but the current tax system says a third of everything you earn after $87,000 will go to the taxman. Well, Mr. Turnbull is saying we're not going to compromise our return to surplus, but our next tax priority is further tax relief for middle-income earners. Well, we'll wait and see where that takes us. Question about private health insurance. Now, the speech that Bill Shorten made to the National Press Club this week was rubbish. It was Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders. We'll give you this and we'll give you that and we'll increase the minimum wage and private health insurance. Well, it's ripping everybody off. And everyone's jumped up and down about this private health insurance. Trump was amazing. I'll play a couple of extracts. I thought he was amazing yesterday. And he talked like a businessman. And he knows how people make a quid. And look at the jobs. Look at the revenue that's coming in. It's clear. And the Democrats are just a pack of sourpusses. They don't know what to do. And, of course, all the Trump critics are now trying to nitpick about whether what he said was 100% accurate and so on. They've got egg all over their face. This bloke is going to turn the thing around. And unless we move accordingly, there'll be a flight of capital from here to Australia. You can't have in our country, as I said earlier, a bloke on $87,000, it's not a lot of dough, and then he gets a wage rise, and the boss calls him in and says, now I'm going to give you a 5% wage rise, and that's another $4,000. And he thinks, well, of the $4,000, a third of that goes straight to the tax man. Once I get to 87,000, what the hell am I working for? We heard from Donald Trump, tough, formidable leadership. Remember all this rubbish about Guantanamo Bay? Oh, you can't. The pigeon-livered said you can't treat terrorists like this. And people said, why? Oh, it's too punitive, too primitive. Listen to what Donald Trump said yesterday about Guantanamo Bay.
Terrorists who do things like place bombs in civilian hospitals are evil. When possible, we have no choice but to annihilate them. We must be able to detain and question them. And when captured overseas, they should be treated like the terrorists they are. So today, I'm keeping another promise. I just signed an order directing Secretary Mattis to keep open the detention facilities in Guantanamo Bay.
Even if you weren't an American, saying at long last, for God's sake. And listen to this. How many times do you say this on the open line? You write to me, you text me, and oh no, government completely on another wavelength. Listen to Donald Trump here on foreign aid.
In 2016, American taxpayers generously sent more than $20 billion in aid. That is why tonight I am asking Congress to pass legislation to help ensure American foreign assistance dollars always serve American interests and only go to friends of America, not enemies of America.
Isn't that fantastic? Foreign aid will only go to friends of America, not enemies of America. Oh, dear. Can we have about 20 of him? Marvellous stuff. How many times have I brought you stories about government interfering with people's lives? Regulation. Go away. Listen to this. I've got a bloke on the line, Andrew McDonald. He runs a 4.5-star bed and breakfast in the Blue Mountains. I've seen pictures of this. It's magnificent. It's called Studio Cottages at Falconbridge. You stay in a beautiful private cottage surrounded by 3 acres of garden and a magnificent backyard pool. The pool is child-proof. The pool is child-proof because it's surrounded by large natural rock formations, a concrete steep slope. Andrew's been running this place since 1996, but the Blue Mountains Council have told him he's got to put a fence around the pool. It'll only cost $30,000. Where are you, Donald Trump, when we need you? Donald Trump is wiping these regulations out. A lot. We've given you some extracts of it. Let's get Harley's perspective on the State of the Union address. And I'll tell you what, the knockers have got their nose out of joint today, Harley.
Well, yeah, they do what they always do. This time he gave them a pretty good reason to, I guess, because they're really good.
Yeah.
And 75% of the American population approve of the speech, according to the quickest poll afterward from CBS. It was interesting in watching the Democrats, especially Nancy Pelosi, who looked like she had a toothache.
Yes.
She's sitting there.
Yes.
She never managed. I mean, he announced that black unemployment was at the lowest in more than 40 years. Not a smile, nothing. That Hispanic unemployment, historically low. Not a word, not a peep, no hands together, nothing. It was.
I mean, Pelosi would have turned milk into yogurt. Eh?
Yeah. You can eat yogurt and you wouldn't want to eat whatever she turned it into.
No, they can't get over it. They didn't win. Wake up, Nancy. You came second, you silly woman. Now, another tunnel discovered under the Mexican border.
Yeah, this is border agents discovered this. It's kind of a crude tunnel, not as sophisticated as those that the big-time drug cartels do. But this one was one that was bringing in illegal immigrants, including a bunch of people from China. That seems to be one of the big trends these days along the U.S.-Mexico border in the area of Tijuana. This tunnel was more than a mile long. They arrested 23 Chinese nationals, including a couple of women. Some of them tried to run to them. Some jumped back down in the tunnel, and there were some Mexicans, of course, involved in the group as well. But this is hundreds of Chinese and other
Amazing.
people
well,
this year.
And he's right on that front as well. He said we want a wall to be built.